Welcome back to Aquariums Unfiltered, my fellow tank mates. We got an interesting episode for you guys today, but there is a couple of things I kind of want to cover and go over before we get into it. First and foremost, things are getting a little weird with these podcasts because now that we're hitting the ground running, I booked like 10 people for the same week, and every one of them are on different times and different days, but every one of them want to have a beer while we do this. So last night I did one with Sean. He's like, where's yours? I was like, oh, I'll run up and grab one.
Right back.
Today's guest, same thing. He's like, I'll go grab a couple beer. And I'm like, oh, it's 5:30. I guess I'll go grab a couple. It's late at there. It's nighttime there. But yeah, once we get all these out of the way and we get a bunch built up, I think that I don't think we'll be doing it. We'll do it weekly or something. And but the point is, like, I just wanted to have a bunch of podcasts kind of built up so that we don't miss anything. Consistency is key. You got to keep uploading. You can't miss any of these. The other thing is that this week, next week, a lot of the software and equipment that we're using is being upgraded. Yeah. Including, for example, the background. I'm going to take the shine off that because I keep getting the reflection and people keep talking about it. But yeah, it's been an interesting week. Tomorrow I got a massive fish shipment coming in. I'm going to talk to George about that because he'll like some of the fish in it, but it's ridiculous what happened. It's coming from Peru, and the costs and what they're putting in the box and how many of what I ordered coming is just astronomical. Like, I am not a wholesale fish distributor, and that's the type of box that's on its way. Yeah. Without further ado, though, I met this gentleman in person. He's probably one of my first in-person collaborations that I have ever done in my life. I saw him on the internet. He was doing big things. He was really interesting, very unique, and really good at what he did. But the biggest thing for me was he was unique and creative, and I wanted to do, and all credit has to go to Dustin's Fish Tanks, because he wanted to do like a competition with me at one point, and I wasn't feeling it because like 8-9 years ago my channel was incredibly serious. I wouldn't even crack a smile, but he wanted to do something like beef back and forth. He's like, it'd be like Tupac and Biggie. And I was like, that sounds cool. I would definitely be Tupac if we did that, but I can't do that on my channel. But then
but I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I wanted to do something like that with the hobby, and I found George Farmer. And I really liked what he was doing, and he was really good on camera. You have to have a personality to make a good video together, especially since I knew that I would potentially be hanging out with him for like a few days or something. And I get irritable and annoyed with people really quick, and I would have probably just came home or something.
Oh, you?
Yeah, me. But he did really well, and we did a scape off in person, and it really put not only George like on a bigger stage, and he got noticed. And then he just hit the ground running. He just channel and everything just exploded. But it really put the UK on the map, for example, and brought a lot of attention to them because that was like their biggest aquatic event up to that date. It was awesome. It was huge.
That's awesome, yeah.
I wasn't expecting that many people to come. I know George wasn't expecting. Nobody was expecting it to be like that, and we were unprepared. I think it's necessary to do a redo. But today, our guest is none other than George Farmer. I hope to have an interesting conversation with him. I think that in our respective genres, we talk circles around each other, but I think that we'll find somewhere in the middle. We actually have a lot in common. So anyways, we'll just bring him on. George, you still there?
Yeah. Hi, Joey. Thanks for having me. Hi, Tamara.
Yeah, I don't. My pleasure. Hello. We've been looking forward to talking to you for a while. I find that when it comes to these podcasts, I prefer to talk to my friends. Yeah. There's tons of people want me to talk to, and I have been talking to some of them, and it's just different. It's like now I'm in interview mode when I talk to them because I don't know them that well, and I don't know what I can and can't say or what they're like. I give them little things to bite on and see where they'll go with it, but it just wasn't working out. So I'm looking forward more so to do this with George. George's been busy though. What have you been up to, George?
Been busy. Yeah, it's been obviously with lockdown. My business model's changed considerably. No travelling. But I've been setting up beautiful tanks in the gallery, writing a book, doing a podcast as well, magazine features, lots of consultancy for different brands. But yeah, super busy, mate. Keeping myself out of mischief.
Yeah, he's doing it right. He's got brand deals, he's got sponsors, he's got, he does everything, a little bit of everything. And I don't. I'm so closed off. And I'm like in my world. I'm like, leave me alone.
In a bubble.
You can't come near me.
I think you've gone all in on your talent, Joey. And I've kind of spread myself a bit thinner, I would say.
Yeah, I think that I'd love to change it up and switch things up, but now that I'm so outspoken, I mean, it's if you're a company, it's really hard to work with me because
Yeah.
I have requirements. Not only do I got to actually believe in your product, and everybody says that, but I'm really like that. But I have to like you because we are going to have a relationship, whether you like it or not. We're now friends, and so all the companies that I work with, I've hung out with, and we've gone out to dinner, we've had drinks. Some of them have been to my house, I've been to their house, and vice versa. And those are the people that I like the most. But I've been to the UK with George, and that was interesting. That was interesting for sure. You know what he made me for breakfast one day? Shout out to him for being so accommodating and such a great host, but I've never had a tomato cut in half and then fried. I was like, what is that? And he just played it off like it was something he eats all the time.
Standard,
like, oh, okay.
Standard English fry-up. Yeah.
I'm going to fry a spot of tea in it.
Cup of tea.
Their lives aren't so much different than ours.
Yeah.
It's way more beautiful there. We have more beautiful landscape, but they have better architect, and it's classic, and everything's just so nice looking. And it looks just like the movies. The UK, London, and Los Angeles are the only two places I've ever been where it was exactly what I was expecting.
Right.
But yeah. So you wrote that book. How'd that go? I mean, how long were you working on that?
From the initial consultation, kind of telephone call, to actually receiving a copy in my hand, it was 18 months.
So a year and a half, not bad.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you wanted to do a book longer than that. Obviously, it's a lot easier if you have a publisher. Is that what you have? A publisher?
Yeah.
A deal?
Publisher in New York. They actually, one of the staff members is actually a hobbyist themselves, and they spotted me at Aquatic Experience in New Jersey. And they went to their boss and they said, "This guy can write." I mean, I've been writing for magazines since 2006, so I knew I could write. It was just actually having that motivation to get it done. And I know you encouraged me, Joey, when you came over for your visit. So yeah, thank you for that.
The reason why I would encourage him, and one of the things I tell YouTubers all the time is most YouTubers don't come from a business background, and neither did I. I came, I learned the hard way. And one of the things I was trying to explain to George is like, YouTube ad revenue is the icing on the cake. We can't depend on that. You can't even live off of it because, man, I've been affected by the ad apocalypse where I think my revenue for that month was less than $100. Meanwhile, the month before was over 10,000.
Yeah.
And this was 2-3 years ago. I mean, things aren't like that anymore for me. You know, I was going viral too during that time period, hitting the trending page, etc. But one of the things you talk about, especially if you're actually knowledgeable, is you got to write a book.
Yeah.
Write a book. And you know who told me to write a book? Dustin.
Cool.
I was like, nobody's gonna buy that. He's like, bro, everybody's gonna buy it. And I was like, what am I gonna write about? He's like, write about what you do in your videos. Just make it more specific. And that was during a time frame where videos had to be 3 and 5 minutes. I had to build entire fish tank systems in 3 or 5 minutes. In that, that's not how long it would take me. It would take me days, but the editing had to be So we had to chop it down. And anyways, I figured, you know what? That is pretty smart. I'll just elaborate. So I didn't move for 3 weeks. I sat down and wrote it, edited it, and self-published within 3 weeks.
That's really good.
That's insane.
Well, if we look at my book, it's black and white. It's just very information specific. If you look at George's book, he has a legitimate publisher. It's a beautiful book. The book is actually nice to look at, and it's laid out properly and really nice. And he sent me a copy. I got it upstairs. But yeah, do you like the idea that you went through a publisher? Do you feel like you got the best deal there? Because I do have some other fish hobbyists.
Yeah, I do actually. They gave me really good terms, a good advance, and then good royalties as well. And then I have the option to sell my own signed copies through my own website as well, which is really good. And I actually get to deal with the customers or the fans or whatever you want to call them directly, because when they buy the book, they fill out the form online, and then they can actually ask for their own dedication, what they want me to write in the book. And normally they write a really lovely bit of feedback for me, which is really, out of all the things, Joey, I've done a lot of YouTube, I've written a lot of articles, I've done TV shows, radio interviews, lots of different things. But actually having a book, a body of work published, it's basically all my knowledge about aquascaping put into 45,000 words and 200, 300 photos. And to have that kind of to be known as an author, I think that actually makes me feel, I don't want to say proud because that sounds a bit glib, but
It looks good on the resume.
it does, and I kind of
no.
Yeah, it's just really.
Well, if he says he's an author, he's believable because he has that British accent, and all of North America associates his accent with incredibly intelligent people. So if he's like, "Yes, I'm a published author," I don't know how they say it, but and it's like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." But if I say it, you've seen people. No, I don't believe you. What? No, I'm like, am I that? Is it that bad? But so Rachel also did a published book, and I always felt bad for her because she doesn't have the same deal as yours. But I think that she did it during a different time. She didn't have the following, but well, maybe a little bit. But she got a little bit up front, and then she gets. I think that was it. Oh, she can sell her own copies, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty decent book. I got that one too. But it sounds like you will get royalties forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So. And
I've got another two books in the pipeline now as well.
Yeah, I had 3 that I just kept not putting out. I wrote them a long time ago too, and they're timeless though, so the information's good forever. And that's the thing about books is that mine came out 6 or 7 years ago. Mm-hmm. It sells as many copies this month as it did in its first month.
That's incredible. So how does it work, Joey? How do you do they get printed to order, or how does it work?
Yeah, so there's so many self-publishing companies out there, and I chose one that allows you to publish all over the world. So if you're in the UK and you order a book, I can have it printed in your city and shipped to you pretty quickly. Now, at first, I was getting the books shipped to me.
Yeah.
I was paying, like, I don't know how much money for each copy because of the shipping costs. And it was hundreds of books at a time, boxes upon boxes. I would repackage them, sign them, and reship them. And I was like, this is way too expensive because shipping a book out of Canada is $20 minimum.
Yeah,
it starts at $20, $22 to ship a book. I was like, and I was offering free shipping.
Wow, yeah, that's incredible.
Like, I gotta try to turn a better profit here because my profits weren't. It was making more than. I wasn't making not having it, but I realized that the only thing that is different is the signature. They're getting a signature versus if I print on demand, my costs are cut in half and they just don't get the signature. But most people want me to sign it in person anyways. Because I was constantly accused of like, hey, this is a printed signature. I was like, do you know what I went through to sign that book? Like, there's never been a printed signature.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good thing with the book, and it is decent, and it seems like it's going to be timeless information. I was telling Sean a story last night about Takashi Amano, and I'm not sure, maybe it came from George. I don't know. It was many years ago, so maybe it was before my relationship with him, but how CO2 came to aquariums.
Yeah, I know the story.
What is your and he came home one night.
He was in a bar.
Drinking.
He was drinking whiskey, and he had soda with it, and he saw the bubbles in the soda. Busy carbonated water, and he just had a realization that that's carbon dioxide. Plants need carbon dioxide to photosynthesize. If he puts that carbonated water in his aquariums, the plants are going to photosynthesize better. So he literally bought all the fizzy water he could, poured it in all his tanks, and the next thing he knows, all his plants are pearling, producing.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah. I heard he poured it in by accident. The next day, the plants were pearling, but it was basically the same story. Mm-hmm. That's fascinating.
That is really, really cool.
It's interesting. I love to hear the beginnings and the how things came to be, and I love it when it's a story like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he's a game changer. Takashi Amano, absolute game changer. Yeah.
We should have a Whiskey Wednesday where we dedicate it to. I don't even like whiskey. We should have a podcast sometime where we get a bunch of scapers on, because I could have up to 100 people on here at once, and just drink whiskey, and I'll listen to them talk about planted tanks while I gaze at my algae.
Take notes.
So, yeah, there's a few things I kind of want to talk about tonight, and one of the things that I was just dealing with earlier was. You deal with a lot of pet stores too, so you know the behind the scenes and what they're going through. And are they having shipping problems? Are they able to get fish in and stock their tanks? Or
yeah, I'm not too clued up on the fish side of things, if I'm honest. I'm more about the aquarium plants. But as you know, probably UK have gone through Brexit, so we're no longer formally part of the European Union. So this has caused huge issues. Importing various goods from Europe in particular, And then in terms of international fish shipments, I do believe there's huge delays. Prices have gone up considerably as well in most stores as well. So yeah, it has the whole global situation has impacted our hobby, and it's particularly with the EU, with the European Union and Brexit. It's been a disaster, if I'm honest. Yeah.
Yeah, same here. We have no flights coming in. I got this order from Peru coming, and they will only do minimum quantities. So I wanted 10 of this, 5 of that. I was after these apistogramma because it's coming from Peru, so I can get it. I can get a hold of some apistos that you literally don't ever see. I got the Tapishi coming. I don't even know what I don't think it has a common name just yet. It's just apistogramma SP. I wanted 10 or 15 of them. And wholesale, they were $18 US.
Whoa.
Mind you, this is a list where fish cost 10, 15 cents.
Yeah.
The shipping for one box is $850. Anyways, I also wanted a few other things, like 5 of this, 10 of this. I mean, you can't order wholesale like that. So what they did, and I'll give you an example. I wanted some just some rams, some Apisto Ramirez. I only wanted 10 of them. They sent 45. I wanted 10 piranha. They're sending 30. What am I going to do with these fish? I can't have. I'm getting some agazi, some blues and some reds. I get 40 of each. I'm not a store. I can't have 40 of these in a 40-gallon.
You can
It's gonna be interesting to see what
sell them
happens.
to your store, couldn't you? Your local store.
Well, that's the thing. The store's struggling too, and he's not doing very well. We were talking tonight. He's like, I got to go over the numbers, see if the store's even profitable right now, because over the last year, it's been really bad. So I was like, well, I'll drop some of these fish off. I mean, it'll help, and I'll keep shouting you out and keep helping, etc. But local fish stores simply do not last around
Is
here.
this
And if he closes,
one fish, 2 fish? Is that your local?
Yeah. Well, it's local enough. It's an hour away, but that's the closest I have.
Oh wow! But have you found the aquarium stores in general suffering then? In general, with the pandemic.
Well, I believe so. Yeah, a lot of them are really restricted hours. Like some are only open 3 hours a week.
Yeah.
They just can't afford to keep the doors open, I guess. I'm like, well, how are you going to make money if you don't keep your doors open? The biggest thing is keeping fish in the tanks and plants. If you can get plants,
It's been pretty empty.
It's interesting in the UK. In the UK, we've got a lot of stores do mail order online, and they're really thriving because so many people are locked in their homes and got more time to enjoy their aquariums, and they're spending more money on their tanks. So they're just going online and just ordering, especially in the aquascaping world. So many more kind of new aquascapers up and coming with the lockdown.
How have you stayed motivated during the lockdown? Because I found for me it was the opposite, where I thought, okay, I got all this time, and it just sucked the life out of me.
Yeah.
I couldn't be around people. I couldn't be
honest with
inspired.
you. Yeah, I have to be honest. It's been ups and downs, really. I mean, the initial 3 months, I was actually deep work focusing on the book. So I'm an early riser, and I said to my wife, I said, like from the hours of 5 a.m. to sort of 9 a.m., do not talk to me, do not disturb me. I'm just going to be deep focus on work. So I just crunched on with the book, got that finished. That was great. Once that was done,
it's hard to work from home.
Yeah.
It's hard to work from home because you're home and everybody just wants to talk to you. And I'm like, listen, I got to work. You have to leave me alone. And it sucks that you even have to say that because for the most part, I've been home, working from home for like 7 years. So they're just used to daddy being here. And I've always tried to arrange my hours while they're at school or while they go to bed, et cetera, et cetera. But you had to tell her, like, leave me alone.
Yeah, I did.
I gotta work.
And she's so supportive. To be fair, Emma's brilliant.
Oh yeah,
you've met Emma anyway, so you know what she's like.
Incredibly supportive.
But it has been a challenge. I mean, Emma works from home. She works in the banking industry. She works full time from home. The boys at home because with the restrictions here in the UK, the boys have been working from home as well. So I had to upgrade our internet like 3 times to get the highest quality fiber optics internet we could because the boys are online, Emma's online, I'm online. So just technical challenges like that, and then you have.
Well, you're doing a lot of live
Can you still
streaming.
hear me, guys?
I can,
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, you
Can
just
you hear
disconnected. I can't see you. That's all. Yeah, I can hear you. I just can't see you.
I can see you.
So yeah, we were having some connection issues, internet connectivity issues. So that was a bit challenging. But we've all had to adapt. had to adapt to live with each other 24/7. I've literally
This
stayed
might
with
cause a
Emma
problem.
almost
I'm switching the
24/7
internet over.
for the last year. It's a
One
year
second. I
today
don't know if
that
you can see me.
lockdown was enforced in the UK. So
Is that plugged in?
yeah, I can't wait to get travelling again. To be
Yeah,
honest,
so
I
you
don't
come
think
back
Emma
in
can
there.
wait for me to go either.
There. So it's my internet. I just switched internets here now.
Okay.
I have a bunch throughout the
Okay.
house, but my son's upstairs gaming and he's live streaming, and whenever
Gaming.
he starts that, like
Yeah.
I get the crumbs of the internet, but
Yeah,
it's never enough. But
it's the same with the
you've been
boys.
live
They're
streaming
just-
nonstop.
Yeah, I've done a few for my own channel. I do a few for other brands as well. I think it's just a great way to engage with the community. It's obviously quicker and easier than producing a full edited video, as you know. And
You do
I
a
just
lot
think
of
it's nice. I just think it's nice for people to know that you're a real human and you want to engage with, with other hobbyists.
Yeah, yeah. I think that it's definitely important, especially long form conversations, because I do think that, and I've spoke with, and I'm sure, well, George has as well. He's traveled just as much as me. You'll meet YouTubers, and you're like, you're much better 10 minutes edited than having a long form conversation. There's not a whole lot there to talk about with you.
Yeah.
So, it's always good to have some conversation with an intellect with that. But you do mention that your current you guys got married. She is incredibly supportive. But you have mentioned to me in the past that, and I've said it in one of my podcasts, that I dealt with my past wife being incredibly unsupportive, and you had that in common as well. What happened there?
Yeah,
same
so
thing?
yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's a really long and deep story. But yeah, I married my ex-wife. I was in the Royal Air Force at the time, and I became really obsessed with aquascaping. I mean, I was balls deep. I was just so super focused, obsessive, just a sponge, and all my spare time was spent, on the hobby and not kind of giving my ex-wife any attention. And that I thought it's kind of suited us because when I think back, we didn't actually really get on. And she had horses, and I was kind of side hustling. So I was in the Air Force full time, but I was writing for magazines and I was doing workshops. I was doing kind of side gigs, and that extra pay would pay for her horses. So it kind of seemed like an amicable thing. But every time I go on the computer, every time I'd be on the forums. This was before Facebook, Instagram, before social media. The old school message boards and forums. I'd be on there and I'd be giving advice. I was a moderator on 5 forums. I co-founded the UK Quack Plant Society, and I was super busy on there. And it was she just resented it. And we had a house. We had 3-4 beautiful aquariums in the home. And every time I'd do a water change, she'd be like tutting, or any time I spilt water, she'd be like really pissed off. And then, but the ironic thing was, whenever we had guests round, she'd be like, "Oh yeah, look at our beautiful fish tanks. This is what George creates, and blah blah blah." So she'd be like,
so proud.
Yeah,
Convenient
exactly.
for her now.
Yeah, conveniently proud. Mine would do the
and,
same thing. Sometimes she made fun of me up until I was undeniably successful.
Yeah.
I started becoming more and more popular, and she didn't even care about that. It's when I started making some money.
The money.
Then all of a sudden, oh, I'm so proud of you. No, you're not. You hated this, and the biggest reason I do this is to get away from you and spend time with my fish tanks. And a lot of people are like that. But do you find like you spent most of your time and a lot of your time with aquariums because you have a past in the military? And maybe has a PTSD, and this is a way to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's no secret that I do suffer from PTSD. I had some really traumatic experiences. I was in bomb disposal in the Air Force. I was attached to an army regiment in Afghanistan, in Helmand province, which is super sketchy. And I experienced some really horrific stuff, including getting blown up in a roadside bomb and some other stuff which I won't talk about right now. That left me pretty traumatized, nightmares. Every time I hear a loud noise now, I want to jump on the floor, and I'm super scared. It's getting a little bit better, but I just found whenever I was feeling a little bit kind of uneasy or a little bit challenged or just not feeling great, I would just I would just do something with the aquarium, whether it's just a water change or creating a new scape, or it's just something that takes your mind away, and actually you're actually doing something positive to change something. So rather than it's even beyond sitting and enjoying an aquarium. It's actually the simple act of like cleaning your aquarium glass or doing a water change. You're creating a better environment for the inhabitants of that aquarium, and that gives you a sense of purpose that goes beyond you. It's what you're doing is bigger than your own kind of headspace, and it just takes you out of that kind of poor mental state, and you can actually feel the positivity. And so what I always say to people that are struggling with depression or anxiety or kind of any kind of mental health issue, they keep an aquarium. The kind of last thing you want to do maybe is, because you're feeling so low on energy and low on motivation, the last thing you probably want to do is a water change. But actually, if you just force yourself to do it, you just feel so much better afterwards. And then that's just like the positive,
And
it
stay
leads
off
to a
the
positive.
internet with your fish tank, because you're going to post pictures and somebody's going to pick it apart.
Yeah.
And you don't know what kind of day that person's having or what type of mental issues they have, etc.
Yeah,
The thing that I found, and it'll be interesting to get your take on this, but what I've found is I was obsessed with aquariums as well. I was balls deep. There's any word that came out of my mouth had to be related to fish tanks. I mean, as soon as I discovered my local club and people just like me and they didn't care about my past or who I was, and I could reinvent myself, and everything was just awesome. And then I found the community on YouTube and started growing. And then, I had the inclination like, man, what if I got to do this full time? So then, start making money, start being more business related, and then you have all this attention on you, and then the pressure starts.
Yeah.
And it's like, did I make the right choice? Is this truly what I want to do? On the contrary, I'll never be as talented as this and anything else in the rest of my life or lifetime, so I definitely have to take advantage of it. But at times, I'm thinking, I just want to go back to having my fish tanks all alone.
Well, it's not a hobby. It's a shift, isn't it? That kind of the whole. It's not a hobby, is it? It's a career. It's a job. And I don't know. I'm interested to know. I know it's not me interviewing or questioning you, Joey, but I'm really fascinated to know. Do you still have a passion for the hobby as a hobbyist, or how do you differentiate between this is work? I've got to produce a video on this day for this, and do you actually take time to sit back and think, shit, that tank looks really good. I really love that tank. Do you feel that passion still? Honestly.
Well, there's tanks that I don't show on camera a lot, or nowadays when I set up a tank, I don't show it right away. I enjoy it for a couple of months all by myself before I let people pick me apart or whatever they want to say. But I've been doing this for so long that I've been evolving all of this time. It's just taking longer for me to make changes and stuff. But one of the things that I've done and I am doing recently is I don't care if you like what I'm doing. There are so many things you can go watch. If you don't like what I'm doing or how I talk or what I say, go watch somebody else.
Yeah.
Because I'm making the videos for me and the people that benefit from my videos. I've already hit all the accomplishments that I want to. I'm not chasing the numbers as much as I used to have to or wanted to or was driven to.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for everybody that watches, and I'm grateful for what I have, but it's not, the numbers are no longer my focus. I got to keep an eye on them, and I got to make sure that the channel's practical, because it's incredibly expensive to run my channel and to have the gallery and to do all that. So I do need to get a certain amount, create a certain amount of revenue. But for the most part, I just want to go. I'm just happy, and because of that, I find that like I make less videos. You see, that when I started my gallery, it was so exciting and there was so much to do, and I was in a relationship where I didn't really want to spend much time with her, so I was just spending time with the fish tanks, and I was obsessed, and I went to daily videos, started making daily videos. But now that I'm more satisfied and happier in my personal life, I find that I'm not as drawn out there 24/7.
Yeah, your value set's shifted, hasn't it? You're getting a sense of purpose and value from Tamara, I guess, and you've got other family members, you've got other pets, and I'm the same. I probably only produce one video on average every 2 weeks on my own channel right now, and that's fine. I'm not chasing numbers.
Well, I hope, and talking about exact dollar amounts is tacky, but I hope the companies that you make, and you're making videos for pretty reputable companies. It's not like they're fly-by-night companies. These are like top of the line very respectful, but I hope they're compensating you well enough to to know that you're taking so much more away from what your personal things are.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't want to talk figures, but yeah, let's be clear, I'm very comfortable. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
I'm much more so than I was in the Air Force, in fact. So I'm doing fine. And actually, it's a really good point. And if you don't mind, I want to elaborate on that. I actually get, when I was growing my channel, I was obsessed about the numbers, and it's addictive. You see your growth, and you see the revenue coming in, and you see all the lovely comments, and it is addictive. It feeds your ego. Everyone's got an ego. Let's face it. I had a really big, I had a fragile ego, and still do, if I'm honest. And these numbers are great.
George is the sophisticated version of me. We have a lot in common, and I said this to Rachel as well when I had her on. I don't know if I said it while we were recording, but I was like, "You're definitely far more reserved than the person I know." Then the recordings ended, and now it's the Rachel. She's like, "Well, there's only she can't act a fool on camera." I was like, "Well, that's the whole purpose of the podcast, is so that it's more relatable." But George is definitely reserved right now, but so am I. Yeah, I'm toned down a little bit. But if George and I are together in person, I mean, we're just normal people that like fish tanks, but we still like normal guy stuff and like to do certain things.
We had a really good time in the UK. But going back to my kind of point about it's all about finding purpose and value. And at the time I was growing my own channel, that was 100%. I was focused on that, and that was where I was getting my motivation and my sense of self. Growing this channel and becoming well known, and and all this. But then when I hit 100K, actually, that was a game changer for me. And I thought, well, I've hit 100K. That's a really good achievement. I've hit it quite quickly, thanks in part to you, Joey, actually. And actually, hopefully we'll go back to that, because I want to.
You and I collaborated at the right time, because because I was so in depth with the algorithm, and YouTube was favoring my channel so much 2-3 years ago, that if you did a collaboration with me and you were on my channel and I linked to you and you're in my tags and all that, those channels would grow exponentially faster. It's not as much the same as it once was, because there's so much traffic and so much static out there now, but that has a lot to do with it. Plus, it was an easy sell. I mean, when somebody's actually talented and you're like, hey, go check them out, it's easy to grow.
It was good fun. So I was growing my channel in part due to you, Joey. Thank you very much for that. And then I hit 100K, brilliant. And then I started doing deals with other brands, and then my time was being kind of diluted between growing my own channel and helping other brands. And I had a bit of a kind of not an issue with it, but it was just like a time to kind of review where I see my career going. And in particular, with one of the companies I work for, a well-known aquarium plant company, I actually now find I put a lot more effort into those videos than I do my own. And the reason for that is because I see myself as a professional, and I try, when I'm working for a client or a customer, or whatever you want to call them, I put my all in, because I want to give them the best results possible. And actually, I kind of get the same buzz as I did growing my own channel as I do from growing theirs, but it's not from the George Farmer point of view. I don't, I mention my name in the, if I'm doing a narration, like a voiceover, I'll say
it's measured success. It's an easy way to see how something's progressing, because there's actual numbers that are public, and it's incredibly satisfying validation where like, I made this video and it's doing these amount of views, and that must have done really well. But my question about making videos for other companies, and there's always pressure, because I've done it. I used to work with Eheim, making videos for them, and who else? Ruby Reef. There's countless ones that I did behind the scenes for them, type of thing. But tremendous amount of pressure. And you set the standard of how you're going to film it, how you're going to edit it, how you're going to talk. Do you think, or did you ever feel like this is a creative block and it's not allowing me to change, evolve, take risks, try to do something slightly different, because you have to meet a certain standard?
Yeah, of course you have to work within the parameters of what the company is expecting. But I'm very fortunate. I've had a very long-term relationship with this particular aquarium plant company. I started working with them in 2006.
Who is it? It's Tropica?
Tropica, yeah.
Yeah,
So
they're number one. I mean, you can drop their name here. That's fine.
yeah,
Um,
and yeah, I mean, I started working with them in 2006. I started writing articles for Practical Fish Keeping, and I
yeah,
think it's quite funny. It was like, I guess I'm like an old school influencer. 2006, I approached Tropica and said, "Look, I'm writing for a magazine. Give me some free plants, and
yeah.
I'll give you a shout out." And they did,
Yeah.
and since then, that's kind of my
You were
relationship.
the king of DIY. You were the king of DIY before I was the king of DIY. Well, I was king of DIY. What I mean is the purpose of the gallery. And before a single fish touched water out there, I revealed that, like, look, we're going to set these tanks up, and once we get to the last one, we'll circle back to the original one once we've done updates, and we'll do a whole new scape, new fish. And you do that too. You did that for tons of your
I always
aquariums
did
where
that,
you-
yeah, step by step aquascaping, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm more of a fan of longer term stuff now because I'm not so relentlessly producing content for my own channel, so I don't have that need
Yeah.
to constantly reset up aquariums. And I actually enjoy
Yeah.
watching a planted aquarium mature, the fish mature, and it
Yeah.
takes on a whole, after 6 months, it just looks so beautiful and mature. You don't get
Does,
that
yeah.
when you
Grows in.
regurgitating scapes 2-3 months at a
Yeah.
time. So yeah, that was like the original, 2006.
So
even before.
What would you, if you were to describe your scaping as if, like, it's art, would you say it's like contemporary? Because I would say like you're more of a classic scaper, like setting the standard for, you're not too far off to the right of it, not too far off to the left. Like, for example, when we talk about other scapers, like what's his name? We know him really well. He's German. I forget his name. Oliver.
Oliver Knotts. Yeah,
Oliver.
he's way out. He's way out there.
Yeah, he's way off to the side, and I don't mean right, left political. That's not what I mean.
No,
but like
no,
way
he's
off
just,
in left field. He's doing some crazy stuff. That's really awesome. But you can say when I see an aquarium, I know it's his.
Right.
When I see an aquarium like George's Scape, I don't. I know that is George's, but I do know that I think that George has been more influential as a scaper than Oliver has. Oliver inspires and gets people excited, and they're like, ooh, ah. But people are replicating George's style.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I see like somebody setting up a scape, like for example that I don't even know his real name, MD Fish Tanks, I'm like, that's George. Those George style for sure. So do you think that? Do you feel that way? Do you feel like you've influenced scaping styles? And
I think I've vicariously influenced. So I think I've got a huge amount of my influence from Takashi Amano, his kind of classic nature aquarium style. We're talking sort of 98 to 2005. That kind of those aquascape styles that he was creating then. That is my wheelhouse, and I make no apology. A lot of people say, "Oh, why don't you?" You switch up your style. You've got the skills, you've got the equipment, you can do anything you want. Well, actually, no. My passion is actually making aquascaping.
do you actually hear that? Do people actually say that to you?
Yeah, especially like the higher end scapers. Yeah.
Oh, so you got to deal with a different kind of hate and a different kind of judgment. I don't have to. I've never heard anybody say that to me. So I guess I've never wondered that. Like, what kind of negative thing? Yeah. So what kind of hate do you get?
Yeah.
It's not
because I get, you're on steroids, you're on speed. Oh, how much coke did you do? And blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, I drank 6 coffees and 3 Red Bulls, and then I decided to jump on video.
Yeah. But, just high on caffeine. Yeah. I don't get hate. I get some feedback from people that I guess it comes from a place of. I like to think it comes from a positive place that they want to see me stretch myself in terms of creating new styles of aquascapes. But I make no apology because my passion is making aquascaping more accessible and approachable to people. So I'm not all about creating really detailed, fancy diorama scapes which look like underwater forests. My scaping style is actually very, very simple, and anyone can replicate it. Strong hardscape.
That's how I like it. Yeah,
foreground, midground, background. That's it. Easy.
Yeah. Well, I don't really have. That's not something we should talk about. Is my scaping style, because it's clearly like, did you just dump everything in and shake the tank, and then add water because maybe? So I'm more so like,
you've done some good scapes, Joey. You did that. Was it 350 gallon or 375 with the manzanita wood and the moss?
Oh, that was cool. That was cool. That took me a month.
That is really nice.
That was me trying, and there's some tanks and scapes that I've actually tried, but I don't want to come off like I'm a scape. I don't want to set the tone.
Yeah.
And I would also like my tanks to actually be obtainable. And I gotta say, like, as soon as people wanted shell dwellers and flower horns, and they were like literally keeping everything I was keeping, and the prices of everything I was keeping was going up and going through the roof because of the demand. That put a ton of pressure on me and made me reconsider how I was going to do things moving forward. One of the things that I tried doing was people wanted monster fish. So I was like, okay, I'll get you some monster fish and I'll show you how to build stuff for them, but we can't keep them on the channel forever because people are going out and buying them and trying to replicate me.
Yeah.
I got to deal with the backlash, but for the most part, that fish isn't going to be in as many more tanks because I don't have it.
When are you going to do a high-tech aquascape, Joey?
I got them. What constitutes a high-tech aquascape? You've got, what, CO2 and high lights and lots of plants? What else is there?
Lots of fertilizers. You got those already?
Yeah, I got...
Maybe I should start watching your content.
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, no, I've got... I've definitely got... Well, I got 5 high-tech tanks.
You did the 120 and then you did some 40s.
All CO2 injected?
The 40... The 40s were CO2 injected until I ran out of CO2, and I was like, okay, well, now you're not CO2 injected. But I got a 120 that is, and I had... I'm not using moss anymore.
Yeah,
I cannot have moss in my tanks anymore. Yeah. I had no idea. I thought it was going to be so easy to because of that the 375 with the manzanita and the moss on it. And that tank was so incredibly simple to take care of. But what happens with moss is it's going to find a new home. And it's going to choke the life out of every other plant. And when that happens, algae is going to come in place, like hair algae and beard algae. Algae you don't want because they're not that easy to get rid of, especially like beard algae and whatnot.
Yeah, so
in one of my 120s, I had, because I was so obsessed with moss because of that 375.
Yeah.
So every tank that I want to set up has to have moss because I love the way it looks. But I think I'm going to get away from it now because, and I've been told that before, like from other scapers and stuff, like don't use moss. You'll have it everywhere. It's going to kill everything. But I didn't know that. Do you experience the same thing, or you just take care of it?
Yeah, I mean, if I do moss, I'm really religiously trim it, and then I actually have a siphon hose while I'm trimming. So yeah. But the thing is with moss, it's unique in that it sinks, whereas most other aquarium plants will float when you cut them. So it'll just sink. It'll find a new home with the circulating water, and then it'll reattach. But yeah, moss isn't a great plant for if you want a low maintenance scape for sure.
Yep.
Figured that out.
Have to make a video about that.
What about you, Tamara? Have you got any? Has Tamara got any tanks on the go?
She's got one behind her that she's going to set up. And the fish come tomorrow, but there's just too many of them. So I think we'll just pick the best out of them and then send the rest off to the store for them to sell and try to help make them some money and whatnot. But yeah, she's got I think there's like a 15-gallon or something. And then I got one over here. But the lights on them are horrible. They're not going to be able to grow plants. Maybe some low light. But I have an order coming in for scaping supplies and plants. Should be here, I think, maybe next week or the week after, something like that, so we can actually start doing something. And then by then the fish will be done quarantine. But
if you ever need any plants, mate, let me know.
Yeah, always need plants. I mean, we typically use tissue culture too. There's a tissue culture place in Montreal, Canada now that just kind of started up. I think they're called ABC Plants. That's
right. Yeah, ABC. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and I bought some of their. I bought this carnivorous carpet plant.
Utricularia.
It's called
Utricularia.
That sounds familiar.
Utricularia graminifolia. Yeah.
Stickers.
Yeah. See, he does plants all day. He dreams plants. He lives and breathes.
It's my job, mate. It's my job, literally.
So why did mine? So I planted it. I had to put it under the substrate quite a bit, but within 2 weeks, it was like starting to carpet. I had CO2 injection. The lighting spectrum was right. Everything seemed like it was going okay.
Yeah.
And then the next, I took a photo and I shared it on Instagram, like how awesome it was, and I was attracted.
You said something silly.
I was like sexually attracted to it.
And
something
you wanted
stupid
to walk
like
in
that.
it with your bare feet.
Yeah, I remember seeing that post, actually. Yeah.
The next day, it was mush.
I've got to be honest with you, Joey and Tamara. It is the one plant that I've never succeeded with. So you're in good company, mate.
When you saw the photo I posted, it obviously looked healthy. Well,
yeah.
I thought it did. But were you thinking, give it time, that's gonna die?
Actually, I was super impressed, and I was a bit jealous, if I'm honest, because I thought, bloody hell, Joey can grow a carpet plant that I can't grow. What's going on here?
Well, it was doing really well, and
it looked really nice.
You know what the problem was, though? That tank, none of those 40s are cycled except one of them. None of them have a nitrogen cycle going on. It's just some fertilizers, and I think it just got burned or like overdosed or something like that.
They are sensitive to added nutrients. So normally
shouldn't be adding anything.
Yeah. What substrate did he use for it?
I'm pretty sure it was ADA.
Okay.
When I'm gonna do a carpet, it's gotta be ADA.
Yeah,
I've tried other types and different types of that method of substrate. I forget what it's made out of, but
it's a volcanic ash,
something
basically.
Else,
it's baked volcanic ash.
Something like that. Yeah. And it's not as, I don't have as much success as I do with the ADA. The downside with ADA is I'm pretty sure it's on par with gold prices. It's so expensive. I mean, it works, but basically you're buying mud. Because if you ever try to drain a tank and move that, it's just mud now.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, but it's a good substrate. Yeah, and any of the volcanic ash substrates are pretty good. No, I'm really impressed that you almost managed to grow it fully.
Yeah, I wonder what would have happened if you just left it.
I think maybe some of it would have rebounded, but it was like translucent. It looked like jellyfish. It was disgusting. Yeah, and I was worrying about it fouling the tank, and I knew I didn't have the tank cycled, so if it produced a bunch of waste, I was just going to have this whole tank crash and burn everything. And then I rescaped the tank, and I didn't even rescape it. I just built two walls, and I hate it.
I kind of like it because it reminds me of a place around here in Nova Scotia called Burnt Coat Head Park. And if you look at pictures of that, it's a cliff with like trees on it and then like rocks all over the ground. That's really what it reminds me of.
Yeah. I think that I want to do a microscape. George mentioned the type not a panoramic. What's that type of scape where it's
a diorama where they shrink a landscape scene into the. Yeah.
I would love to do something like that. I just don't want to take care of it.
It's so hard.
Because I already have 5,000 gallons of water to take care of and do my water changes. Summer's coming though, and maintenance out there becomes so much easier.
Yeah.
Because then I can run water from the house. I can drain water so much faster. Everything becomes so much easier, and it's not as humid.
Yeah, you can have the windows open.
Yeah,
door open.
I can figure things out. What is your? So money's no object, and it's not based off of current experience and what you're able to do. But what is, if you had a dream of what to do next? And I don't mean like if you could have any aquarium. For me, I think I want to do a public gallery. I don't want a public aquarium, but I want a public gallery with like 30 tanks, and then maybe a big one in the center with my rays and stuff. Something that's people can actually accomplish and do. And then maybe like a store where they can buy stuff.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'll be something to do with definitely inspiring a new generation of fish keepers, or for me, aquascapers. I have had some kind of pipe dreams about setting up. I'm really into coffee, like organic beans, grind my own coffee, and all that stuff. And so I thought about combining a coffee shop, and I'm really into books as well. So coffee shop, books, Aquascape gallery.
Okay, some aquariums will be set up, but are you talking about those sandboxes where you can kind of play around and play with the scapes? Do you think those would be incorporated?
Some of that, and
like maybe.
Yeah, and then it's just community vibe, quite a big area, open plan, wooden benches, old school, 1930s coffee grind. It's like really cool, sort of retro kind of, and. You just walk in and there's some beautiful aquarium displays. There's a smell of coffee, it's like homemade cakes and stuff, loads of books. People can just like sit and chill and read, be by the scape. People can play around with the scaping dojos. And it'd just be a really cool community for people to hang out.
Now knowing George, off to the left, right by the cache, there's a stripper pole. Just in case anybody wants to use it, it's there.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, for me,
What's stopping you from doing that? That seems actually
seems really cool.
achievable.
Yeah.
it is achievable. You're right. And,
Obviously, the down payment and the investment that it would
yeah,
take.
just a
But
couple $100,000 to get hold of. I do actually have some really cool plans in the near future. I want to travel the world and I want to visit 50 countries and I want to film the best scape in each, and photograph the best scape in each country. And that's going to be the new book, 50 best aquascapes in the world.
that could
So
be
that's
cool.
going to happen. So
Yeah,
if you
that's
can
an
get a
expensive
decent
book.
if you can get a decent scape going, Joey,
You got to
I'll
be
come
careful with these ideas because some of these are genius. So
Yeah.
we're projecting these onto the internet.
Yeah.
And I come
Somebody's
from
gonna be like,
I come from an era where I've learned my lesson not to reveal upcoming
Right.
too many.
Maybe edit that one out. That's fine.
Well, I don't think anybody can actually achieve it. I think that they'll get excited about it because if I'm excited about it and I
Yeah.
think that's a good idea, I can't be alone.
So yeah, and there's and you'll find this one interesting. I can't say too much details. I know, but I know we're talking about biotopes and biotypes with Rachel on your podcast. That was a really
Yep.
good interview. Really enjoyed that. Um, I'm very good friends with a guy that spent 3 years in the Amazon in the Pantanal. He's an ichthyologist. He did his masters in fish, in freshwater tropical fish in the Pantanal, and he is setting up a load of full-on, authentic biotype aquascapes with my help, and that's going to hopefully be a new book as well. So that's really exciting because for me, it's the biotype hobby is getting bigger. But it's still very much there's so many kind of like the old school who are so finicky, so kind of anal about getting exactly the right this, the right that. But I just say add a little bit of creative licensing, just a bit of a disclaimer that you can't necessarily use this. You might want to use this alternative plant or
Old school used to also be against hybrid fish.
yeah.
And they were purist. You can't have a hybrid like I use flower horn as an example all the time.
Yeah, of
and it got
course.
to the point where it didn't matter. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. It is in such popular demand, and so many
Yeah.
people are doing it. You either sink or swim.
yeah.
And then places like the American Cichlid Association, for the first time ever, introduced flower horn as an option to enter into their contest. Best in show or best flower horn, whatever
Right.
it was.
Yeah.
And they were definitely purist for the longest time. But so when it comes to like old school people and being finicky and stuff, we're becoming the old school people. I mean, how long have you been doing this? How long have you been doing fish tanks?
20 years.
Yeah, same here. So at what point do you become old school?
I think it's old school, which okay, let's reframe it then. So there's fixed mindset and growth mindset. So fixed mindset is it has to be done this way. You can't change any kind of evolution or potential improvement. That's not happening. It has to be like this. Growth mindset is okay. This is happening. Let's adapt to it. Let's actually improve it. Let's grow with it and adapt. And that's where I am. I've been a fish keeper
Yeah.
a long time, but I know every day I'm going to learn something new. I'm going to impart knowledge onto people, but I'm very, very happy to receive it as well. And I'm the first one to admit if I get something wrong, I'll admit it. I've done it recently, and I will hands
What
up.
happened?
I've
What
learned
happened
something
recently?
today. It was about glutathaldehyde. You know this called liquid CO2. Have you heard of
Yeah.
carbon? So an article 10 years ago, I published an article saying that you could use liquid CO2 as a CO2 replacement. I'm just paraphrasing now. And now, in fact, I wrote it in my book, and I talk about it quite publicly that I don't recommend using it. And someone called me out on it,
it's
and
not
I
the
said,
same.
"Well,
Well,
that's fine. That's 10 years ago. Now it's now. Hands up. I made a mistake 10 years ago. That's 10 years ago."
Yeah. Well, you didn't technically make a
No.
mistake 10 years ago. That was common knowledge 10 years ago
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it was okay to do liquid CO2, and
We're
tons of
always
companies
learning.
made a boatload of money off of liquid
Yeah.
CO2s, and it's
Yeah,
just
it's
not
just a
the same.
biocide. It's just a liquid. It's just a diluted biocide. It's deadly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like
So, but yeah, what I'm
way off
saying is,
topic, but kind of, yeah.
we could be old school, but I think I'd always embrace the growth mindset. I'd always be willing to learn new stuff and adapt with the hobby, but equally not necessarily be a passenger in the hobby. Me and you, Joey, I think we kind of have a leadership role, and we have a sense of responsibility to make sure people are doing things the right way. So
well, yeah,
there's a balance in that.
That's why we're cautious about certain videos and certain things we say. You have to grow the hobby, but also guide it and nourish it and make sure it's going in the right direction. And one of the most difficult things to battle, because I'll say it, there is so much money in views, and I'm not talking $5,000 or $10,000. If you do 10 million views in a month, Canadian dollars, that's probably going to be $60,000 or $70,000. Now you understand why people do the most craziest things and fight fish and put them in a bucket or send them down a tube. It's not like they don't care; it's that they don't need to care. They're making so much money, and they want to continue to make millions off of fish tanks.
Yeah,
that's one of the things I've struggled with, because I've tasted 10 million views in a month, but I did it the right way. I trended the #1 trending video on YouTube worldwide by simply adding my arowana to my 2,000-gallon tank, and I was able to build that momentum up with months and months of videos and the anticipation, and then it finally happened.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I felt like I was.
You grinded it out. That was a worthy cause, because that's like delayed gratification, isn't it? You had a mission, and you went through all the stages to execute it. Whereas now, I have a real beep in my bonnet about instant gratification. People just want they want to get rich quick. They want, a pill that makes them like super fit, or they're not willing to put in the grind, learn the stuff, make mistakes, learn from them, grow, repeat, rinse and repeat. They just want.
Well, that's what I find. Some up and coming YouTubers, which I nourish them, and I'm always there for them, but a lot of them, when they see how much work it takes, and they've been doing it for 1 to 2 years, they could be a fan of yours, but as soon as they want to be a YouTuber and they see how hard it is, and they feel like entitled and feel like they should be growing, they immediately turn against you, and all of a sudden you suck. Meanwhile, they're making videos just like you and trying to be just like you, and they supported you at one point, but all of a sudden you're not good enough anymore.
Everyone wants to do the sexy stuff. No one wants to do the foundations.
Yeah, nobody wants to go to the gym. But
apart from us, Joey.
I don't know. I don't really go to the gym anymore. I want to.
I can't go to.
But
I'm not allowed. I just do push-ups.
Just have a jacked chest. just like you can see every striation in his chest, but no muscle anywhere else.
Well, that's for another
Something
time, maybe.
That's
for another video.
You're actually. Yeah, that's for that stripper pole.
That's for that. If you've not got an OnlyFans account yet.
Well, I do. I just put it under something else. The king of something. It starts with DI, but doesn't end with Y. No. Well, no. Have you thought of that? So I feel like every influencer that has a following thought, like, man, because people on, not guys, I don't know what guys are doing on there, but a lot of girls on OnlyFans are killing it, making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. And I was like, well, maybe if I go do a helicopter real quick or something. I don't think I think every influencer like thought.
Yeah,
about
I thought about it.
Maybe I can
thought about it. Just don't put your face in it, mate. I've got a good body. I'll do it.
If people are gonna do it, I feel like they should start with something that's seen anyway, like your feet.
Well, you got nice feet, so you're hung up on doing this foot.
Well, I'm not. No, I'm not. But like, why are people going all in right away when you could just tease by using those things that people see anyways first?
I guess.
See what you get from that, and then maybe you don't even ever have to move on to showing your whole body.
I guess. But I mean, it's just like
some people just go right in, right out there.
All out there, get it all out there.
Worst case scenario, I mean, I'll do it.
But if YouTube ever goes, that's always an option, isn't it?
Have you ever thought about that? Like, do you ever think that?
I was approached by a male model agency on Instagram. They wanted me to collab. All I did was use the hashtag keynote speaker, and there was a picture of me at the AGA a few years ago. And
you do have classic looks. Yeah.
Cheers, mate.
And I think he looks better. I'm going to sound so
go.
like I'm so into him in a way I shouldn't. But like, he looks better in person. He's way more handsome in person. But I'm comfortable with. I know when I see somebody that's good looking. I know guys can be like that. Just like girls are like, oh, she's pretty.
Yeah.
You can appreciate. I can appreciate aesthetics. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're also kind of tall. Like you're at least 6 foot. Yeah.
About 6'1". Yeah.
About
He's measuring.
I'm 5'9" with shoes.
I thought you were taller than that.
That's like the average male height, though.
I got my attitude makes me seem like I'm going to be bigger.
There's a photo of me and you at Aquascape, and it was taken at an angle, and I think we deliberately posed it, so I was like towering over you. It was really funny.
Oh, face to face.
Yeah. Because we were like pretending to do like some. Because it was the escape off thing, wasn't it? That you won again.
I feel like I got a bone to pick about that escape off, and the reason why I don't want to do it anymore. So I know I had to put myself in your shoes, and that's why I've never talked about it, because I did put myself in his shoes, and I realized, okay, I kind of probably feel the same. But I used to be a little irked, and I was like, you're missing the point, George, because he's like, this is just a popularity contest, and I thought he was pissed off at me for like winning. And yes, it is a popularity contest. It doesn't matter what the escape is; it's just who put on the best show.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
what and that's all. I lost to Dustin, but I beat the Sensky brothers, and I beat George Farmer. Does that make sense? Of course not. It's just based off popularity of that time. Now, the escape off with Dustin, he got all his fans to come on Sunday, and mine were there on Saturday. So I got it, and I understood it then. But so my idea with the escape off was that we're just making it fun, because at one point before, and George was part of like a pinnacle point in the hobby where it's now fun to have fun and joke and do this stuff publicly and make fun and competition, because that's what I wanted it to be like. Because before then it was just, everything was so damn serious.
Yeah.
And I hope everybody and I'm so knowledgeable, and I want everybody to, why can't we have fun too? And when we went and did his escape off, if it were anywhere else but in London, UK, I don't think it would have been as successful, because that crowd was different. It was like we were soccer players, football players.
Yeah,
it was
wild.
It was insane.
It was wild. It was like
insane.
I think there was 600 people there. We anticipated.
Oh, it felt like thousands.
I thought I was anticipating 100, 200, and then we walked through the crowd. And I was just like. Everyone's like, Joey, and then there's a few people going, George.
George. Well, the camera guy, I don't like how they rate. I feel like almost we need a ballot box and counting, because they do this thing with the phone, and they're like the decibel meter. But every time they're doing it with George, most of his friends are on stage screaming, and I'm like, what is that? But I got like there'll only be like 3-4 like super duper fans that have a similar personality to me, and they'll just lose their voice screaming right at that phone, and it's definitely interesting. But so George took the opportunity to show how to skate properly and how to take it serious, and I understood what he was doing, but I was like, in my mind, I was like, let's work the crowd and let's make them laugh, and that's why we have the numbers here. They don't really think I can beat George Farmer in a escape off. Yeah. They're there to troll. And now if I would have said, I'm probably going to lose, oh, you guys are never going to let me win, they wouldn't let me win. Mm-hmm. That's what my fans do. They want to play the game with me, and I love it. That's why I do it. But when they voted for me against George, I was like, well, this is cool and stuff, but this isn't real. Like, I don't think I beat him. But how did you feel? Did you feel like embarrassed, or you were pissed? I know you were pissed off. You had to have been pissed off.
I think there's a part of my fragile ego. I was like, what the hell? I'm a professional scaper. Joey's not.
Joey's Joey.
But it's what it is. It was an opportunity to promote the hobby. I was really grateful to have you over here. Grateful to have you in my home.
Oh no, that time was I didn't get any sense of anything there. Aquascape, yeah. That's when I knew he wanted his redemption and he wanted to win, and he probably should have. But the UK scape was ratchet. It was bad. I was just doing whatever the crowd said. They're like, add wood. my scape was done, so I just took this massive piece of branch and I set it on top. I was like, is that what you want?
Like a tree topper.
And they're like, yeah, do that.
We love it.
We love you, Joey. I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that crowd did have a crazy energy just even watching the videos that you have.
It was great, and
good
I like those types of opportunities. I like being on stage and stuff because I can joke.
Yeah.
And I can just be myself.
Yeah.
And if you get the jokes, you get the jokes. But I try to, like, when I won against George, I ended that thank you speech with proposing to a person in the audience.
Yeah.
Just silly stuff like that. And
Involve them, yeah.
at one point, I picked a kid up or gave them escaping supplies, just stuff like that. And that's where I was having fun. I didn't care if I won one. I mean, my ego wants to win.
Yeah, everybody likes
winning. But I didn't come home thinking I beat a scaper.
No.
I didn't come home thinking I was the better scaper. I was like, as soon as I had it, that's what I should do. The next video I do with you, I'll give you my trophy.
I wouldn't take it.
Because I never... What's that?
I wouldn't take it.
I thought he said, and I will take it.
Take it.
Spit shine that. Spit shine
I'm
that
waiting
thing
for
me.
this moment.
Yeah, no, we definitely got to do it again. What I was hoping would happen was you would beat me, and I tried to insinuate that if George wins this one, we'll do a rubber match like another one. But then I won, and then I went against Dustin, and then I lost, and now everything's pointless. I don't want to do any more skate offs. However,
I thought we should do a full-on like boxing match.
You were the only. I'm pretty sure I told you you'd be the only one that made sense. That's physically fit enough. Because I wanted to do one against. Because YouTube boxing was big for a minute, and so I was gonna do one with Zach Catch 'em All Fishing.
Yeah.
And because he's actually athletic, he can box, and it would be competitive. But he's not really in our niche, and I don't know if I want to promote people outside of it to that extent. So then I thought Dustin, because Dustin's a runner, and boxing is all about endurance.
Small, mate. You just snap his head off his shoulders.
Yeah, I probably put an
No
end to him
offense,
quick.
Dustin. He's probably watching right now. Sorry, mate. Dustin's a good runner, though. I had a 10-mile run with Dustin. I think it was Aquascape. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good runner.
You told me, or he told me, or I seen
Yeah,
it in
yeah.
the video.
There's a few of us. We went on this crazy long run after like 3 hours sleep. It was amazing.
So then it was going to be, you came in somewhere throughout the middle, but then it was going to be George Marvakis because he's a college athlete, played basketball. He was going to play pro ball in Europe, and it would have made totally sense. And I tried to convince him. I was like, I'll come down and wait. I'm 15 years older than you. I'm out of shape, etc. He just didn't want no part of that.
Mm.
But the only person that I thought it would actually make sense was with George, like an actual boxing match, and it would probably have to happen in London or Europe, where that's your home base.
Mm.
And I think the laws and regulations and stuff are different than the United States. I can't see us doing it in the United States, but we could do something like that in the UK. I couldn't get my pro boxing license without some amateur fights, so we'd have to wear headgear,
Right.
which is stupid. I mean, nobody's getting knocked out with headgear on. I mean, George might, but George hasn't moved around the whole podcast till now. Now he's over there.
Right.
But he can't sit still. He's like, okay, let's do it. Let's do it.
Fun fact for you: my dad was Army boxing champion.
My grandfather was Golden Gloves champion of Canada.
Wow. Well, my granddad was worldwide.
One up.
My father left when I was 9 and never came back. I didn't think this would
This
come up.
isn't where
Sorry,
this
mate.
is
No.
supposed
How do I
to
end
go.
this? I promised myself I wouldn't cry.
I'll make you a glass of warm milk.
Please subscribe. Cheerio.
Subscribe. Cheerio. In it. I think that a boxing match between you and I could be fun, and a lot of people would be like, "Oh, why are you guys doing that? It has nothing to do with fish tank." It would be fun.
It would get
fun.
attention too.
Yeah, it would be
the
fun.
hobby.
Plus, he has like military training.
Yeah.
He knows how to end my life without making a noise.
That's all fun and games.
I'd just be super focused on because I like to have a goal to aim for. So I would just aim for I want to hit a certain weight, I want to be certain fitness.
Well,
And
how
then
much? So you're
the-
6'1". How much do you weigh right now?
Right now, what do you do? Kilos or pounds or stones? What do you measure?
How do you do it?
I certainly don't do stones. I do
Pounds.
pounds, but I can convert kilos. Kilos is 2.2.
I'm exactly 13 stone, so 13 times 14, whatever that is. In just a second, I'll let you know.
13 times 14?
Yeah.
That 182 pounds. So we're right around the same because I weigh 185, 190, depending.
If I was boxing fit, I'd probably be
170?
Yeah. No,
Oh, you go up?
I'll go heavier. I need to bulk out, if anything.
Oh. I'd go down. I get too bulky. Yeah, I'd go down. I get too blocky.
Yeah, because I'm quite, yeah.
Where would you want to go? You want to go up to 200?
Maybe.
18 more pounds. I would want...
I'd
I
have
think
to be...
200 pounds is too...
I don't
too
know.
slow.
We'd have to kind of come into an agreement because I wouldn't want to, be too heavy and you too light, or vice versa, because it wouldn't be fair.
We'd meet at a weight. We'd meet at a weight.
He's a little bit taller than you, so...
You'd weigh in the day before. I think like 175, 170, 175.
Should we
Because
make
once you get into shape and you cut weight...
Yeah, that's true. I'm only 12% body fat now.
I think I'm about 50.
I'm not going to be participating in this conversation anymore.
I go about 50% body fat. I'm definitely up there.
The audience thought they were listening about fish tanks and aquascaping, and we're talking about boxing.
Who knows where conversations with me
Little sprinkle of this, little sprinkle of that.
Well, this is why I wanted to do my own podcast, because every time I talk with anybody else, it's always interview based, where it's just question, and it's literally the same questions. What is your top 3 favorite fish? What are your favorite plants? If you could do, it's just always the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not disrespecting those people. No. Just understand, I've been making YouTube videos for like 13 years. I've done too many interviews, and they're always the same.
Yeah.
Now, George actually has his own podcast, the George Farmer podcast, and I listened to it. It was pretty good audio quality, etc. But you do topic-based discussions. Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's very much... it's actually, the original idea was to promote the book. So it was all about... It was actually, each episode was almost a chapter of the book, and it was just kind of going through step by step. So the whole methodology was if someone could listen to the podcast from start to finish, they'd actually be quite a skilled aquascaper. And it's the same process with the book. Any beginner can pick up that book. By the time they finished it, they can aquascape. Now, I thought I did a similar type podcast where it was topic driven. I did 30 episodes before I got tired of looking at the wall and talking to myself. And some podcasts where I literally had some that were 5 minutes and others that were an hour. They usually lasted about an hour, but I just got bored of it and lost interest. Is that what's happening with yours? Because I see that yours is more sporadic. Yeah, season 1 we were doing every week, every 2 weeks, and then we had a big break to season 2, and now it's a little bit more sporadic. Emma helps me, so she has to be, we have to be in the right frame of mind together. To be fair though, she is super supportive, and actually sometimes she prompts me, said, "Oh, should we do a podcast this weekend?" She's been on the podcast. You know what we should do is do another one with the 4 of us. Yeah. Well, George's coming to Canada soon, and I suspect he's going to stop by. It's not easy to stop by here either. We're on the coast. Where are you? Where are you? East Coast? Yeah, we are on the most east coast you can get, as east as you can get. Because I am planning on... How far from Toronto are you? Not drivable distance. Well, probably 18 hours of driving.
It would take about 2 days.
What's your nearest airport? To Nova Scotia?
Halifax. Halifax International is 40 minutes away. This is the one I fly out of. Yeah, because I was planning. I mean, it's relatively it's not affordable to fly within Canada. It's cheaper for me to go to you than it is for me to fly to Toronto.
Yeah,
really,
that's very true.
That's
it's weird.
I flew to you on a straight flight there for like $800 or $600, something like that.
That's cheap. Yeah.
Really cheap. And I always want to sit business class because I don't like to sit. I always feel like they're gonna, if the plane goes down, my passenger or whoever I'm sitting beside is gonna stop me from getting off the plane. So I have to sit near the front by myself. Don't touch me. I want to get off.
And you can get off right away when you're right up front.
Yeah, or if I can, I'll try to sit at an emergency exit. You get a little bit more leg room. Plus,
emergency exits are good.
But if a plane goes down, I don't know what your survivability rate is.
I don't think anyone can predict what they would do in that situation.
It's not a good scenario. But yeah, absolutely, mate. I'd love to come over. and see you guys.
Yeah, I think it would be good.
Yeah.
I think it'd be good. What are you going to that store that you have locally? I don't know if it's locally because I remember taking a train from there. Everything about the UK that you think actually happens. Like they take trains everywhere.
Yeah.
And they have pubs everywhere.
Mm.
That's something George and I did. Was we went to a pub and their beers are so big.
Oh, really?
They're like massive
That's
glasses.
something interesting about all around the world is that like the standard size of things is very.
Yeah, very varied, isn't it?
It's very different. Yeah, very.
Are you guys metric or imperial? You metric or imperial measurements? You do gallons, right? US gallons.
We do a combination of the two. Well, I do a combination of imperial and
metric.
Yeah. Because of my American audience.
Mm-hmm.
Are you more dominated by UK audience or American?
American.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually very cosmopolitan. So I think last time I looked, America is about 22% of my YouTube. UK is only about 14, and then the rest of the world is like ones and twos. Yeah, so I've got I've got big Central European audience, big Indonesian audience, Asia.
Mine is dramatically different.
Yeah.
I have much higher percentage numbers in the United States.
Yeah, that makes sense. But my US is. I do cater for US. I actually always use both inches, centimeters, and US gallons and liters all the time because it's quite evenly split between imperial and
my
metric.
audience in the United States is 42%.
Wow, that's big.
Almost 11% in the United Kingdom. So I'm rather.
Yeah, is that your second biggest,
there.
right?
Yeah, and then Canada at 6%. India, I'm huge over there.
Yeah.
And same with Bangladesh
6.5,
and all these.
Yeah. So United States for me is 16%, and then Indonesia.
16%.
Indonesia is bigger than the UK. I've got 9.4% Indonesia.
So
and then
when
UK,
you're traveling,
and then India, and then Germany.
I wonder which demographics are more valuable. Is it more valuable to be popular in a major country like the United States because they're so influential, or is it better to be spread out amongst the entire world like George is?
I think if you look at the CPM rates of each country, if you're just talking revenue, I think like Australia and places like that have a really high CPM. But we're talking lots of techie details here, aren't we?
I was talking with a YouTuber. He'll be on the podcast here on Monday next week.
Yeah.
He had a full-time job plus he was doing YouTube, and we talked about. I was just telling him like, there's, like right now, George, you are reaching the entire planet with your aquarium videos. You've published a book. You do appearances. You've got sponsors and endorsements. There will never be anything else in your life, unfortunately, maybe, probably not, that will be equivalent to this. And that's what the same That's true. And
so I managed to shut Joey up. That's amazing.
Like I said, I've stayed at his house, and George loves to walk around in a towel. So for no reason.
But the towel isn't around his waist; it's on his head.
Yeah, no, it's on his shoulders. So no, I was talking to this guy. And I kind of want to save the story to talk to him about it, but I convinced him to quit his job right then. I was like, bro, there will never be another time in your life where you'll be this good at anything. You need to quit and double down.
Yeah.
He's coming up on 1 million subscribers. He's probably going to hit it within the next couple months. Wow. And he's incredibly talented.
That's really, really neat.
Yeah, I think, is it? Can I say who I think it is?
Yes.
Serpa. Tanner. Yeah, he's awesome. Yep. I love Tanner.
Yeah. He's definitely a unique character, so it'll be interesting to see what a conversation between us will be like, whether because we hung out a little bit, and I know he liked me and stuff, but I do also know that I'm a little overbearing. I'm loud. I could be obnoxious.
He's quite measured, isn't he? He's quite a quiet, kind of measured character.
Yeah, that's a good way to put him, yeah.
Yeah, very, super down to earth, super he's super connected with nature, and like I had really good, deep and meaningfuls with him. He's a really cool guy.
He's it makes sense for him to be popular for what he's doing. Definitely makes sense. I do know that my personality carries me a lot of the times, and the way I explain things and the way I talk. because I was talking to somebody yesterday that was far more intelligent than I, far more educated than I, but I don't think he can explain things the way I can. But I think a lot of that has to do with experience and just talking ability, personality, that sort of thing. Do you feel like sometimes you're... Go ahead.
Yeah. I think I'm probably going to answer your question that you're going to answer. I think I have an advantage because I actually left school really early, so I wasn't really formally educated. So everything I know in the hobby, everything I know about photography, filmmaking, writing, all of the stuff I make a living out of now is all self-taught. So because I had to teach myself, I now find it I find it enjoyable and relatively straightforward to impart that knowledge onto other people. And a lot of people have said to me, my biggest strength is actually that ability to communicate a relatively complex message and get it across quite simply. And that's kind of, where I am with the book and, where I am with the videos and stuff.
I don't know. I said this previously. I think I said it with Rachel, or I might have said it with her.
You don't know a topic. You don't know a topic unless you can explain it simply to someone. Is that what you're going to say? Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can't explain something simply, you do not understand it well enough yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's why where my strengths lie is like if I'm telling you something, it's because I believe I have a complete comprehension of it. And I think that when you speak, you have a complete comprehension. When things get complicated and I don't know what you're talking about, I immediately think you don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't understand what you're saying because you can't explain it in a way that I can understand.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Yeah. And unless you listen, I mean, I listen to some super sort of heavyweight intellectual podcasts sometimes, like philosophy and stuff, and I have to listen to it over and over so it sinks in. But that's just like a different language sometimes. Some of the kind of language they use is just so complex. But yeah, I like to. Sorry.
That's the worst part about doing the online thing is talking over each other. Sorry about that. You go ahead. Finish your sentence.
Yeah, I was just saying. I think we've got that in common. Being able to explain relatively, potentially complex concepts to folk in an easily understandable and digestible manner.
What do you love to talk about? What's something that you love to talk about that you just cannot wait to talk about it with somebody, and you rarely get to talk about it? I mean, fish tanks out of the way.
Okay.
Or maybe it's an idea within aquariums. What is something you cannot wait to talk about?
At the moment, I'm really into becoming. I'm really into like wellness, but I don't just mean like health and fitness. I mean mental health and being aligned with the person that you want to be, and actually figuring out what that is, and actually doing stuff to achieve it. I'm really into like living an aligned kind of lifestyle. I lived my whole life, Joey, from a fairly traumatic childhood through
I think we're the same age too. Like you need to age yourself because I think you're 35-ish or something like that.
I'm 45.
Between 35 and 40.
I'm 45 this year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that just echoes the towel situation. I thought you were 35.
I was born in '76. Yeah. So I had a tricky childhood as you did, Joey, and then I joined the military and I had some tricky experiences in the military, and then I left the military and I did the aquascaping thing full time, and that was really challenging. The first couple of years of making that transition from full time employment to self employment. Thank God I had Emma to support me. And through that whole period, I didn't really have a sense of kind of true identity.
You came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I try to think, like, where did George Farmer come from? How did I all of a sudden, I can't remember when I first heard your name.
I'm going to get a beer now, because I've just seen Tamara's got a drink. So.
Well, she filled, and then she went and got me one too. She put it in my protein shake bottle.
I'm the bearer of drinks. The bearer of beer.
Cheers. You still drinking Corona, Joey?
No, I had to get off them simply because I was drinking them too much, and I didn't like them as much anymore. and I could down 20, 25 of them, and
Yeah,
it wasn't
scary.
healthy.
No, exactly. So
You said
yeah,
they started to taste bad. You said they started to taste bad.
I was kind of rambling
Amongst
about
other reasons.
what I love to talk about. So I'm just really into being the. It sounds really cheesy, but being the best person that I can for everyone around me, for my family and my friends, and just performing, not necessarily, and actually, and that doesn't mean necessarily performing well at work. You know, work is work, and family time is family time. And if I've learned anything about this lockdown, is actually humans. Human beings need to be connected, right?
Yeah.
And I've really, I'm going off on a tangent now, but I've really missed traveling. I guess you have it, and spending time with other people physically, you know, in club environments or talks, or just going to the pub. You know, Emma and I were just chatting earlier. I mean, the one thing we're looking forward to most when lockdown's lifted is just going down to the pub.
I watched my favorite post on Instagram from you in the last 12 months was I think it was an image of you and Emma signing books, or she was helping with you, and you both had a glass of wine, and I was like, I know what's happening there, and I know how important that moment is to them, and how incredibly and that's been my favorite moment. That's been my favorite George moment in the last 12 months, easily.
Yeah, that's an emotional moment.
Because I knew, because I know the work you put into the book, and I just know what it's like to finally have a tangible thing. Well, here's my question: do you think that you want to be the and the more recent interest in being the best version of you can be, and focusing on that now is because you're finally successful at something, you're finally good at something, and you're validating, and you can finally say, like, see, I'm not what you thought I was, and I'm not what everybody thought I was, and because I always say, like, I would have been successful a long time ago if somebody would have believed in me.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. Yeah, I was always told as a kid, you know, you're never good enough, you're useless, you know, you try harder, you know, and it was awful. You know, I always had this sense of not being worthy, not being, you know, always needing approval and validation from folk. When you become a YouTube star, whatever you want to call it, you get that in abundance. And so when I hit that, you know, and it kind of something clicked when I got to 100K. I thought, actually, I've got that validation that I need now. I've got that approval.
Did you get the silver play button?
Yeah. Yes, around here somewhere. Yeah.
Those are so cool to get.
Yeah,
they're so cheaply made.
Yeah.
I mean, it's press board or something.
Yeah.
But it's such a.
It's very special.
And not very many people have them. Well, lots of people have them. I got a question for you, George.
Yeah.
And this is something a lot of women in the hobby have asked me about. And I don't really care to answer. I'm just curious, like, when you were younger, were you a ladies' man? I'm getting those vibes.
No, I wish. I went to an all-males boarding school. So
jeez.
That was impossible to be a ladies' man there. And then,
school. Well,
yeah. No, I've never been. No. I've had two wives.
Fine wine. 2 wives, and that's it.
And yeah, a few girlfriends, but no, never a ladies' man. No.
I got to tell you this story about why I dropped out of college. I'll tell you in a second. You and Tamara, keep it up for a sec.
Okay, Tamara, I've got a story for you. I got expelled.
Okay.
I got expelled from boarding school for sneaking
out.
Yeah, for sneaking out to see my girlfriend in the local town.
Huh. Well, for good reason.
That's the best reason, right? Yeah. So
yeah.
So yeah, that was interesting. And then my dad was so strict. Honestly, I just thought my life was over, and he wasn't actually too bad. And then
did they just like notice that you were gone?
Yeah,
how did they find out?
I snuck out about 11 p.m. at night, and then I came back about 7 in the morning. And then the house, they call it the housemaster. He's like the guy, you know, the adult in charge of the whole kind of dormitory thing. And he was like, "Farmer, get to my office." So and he was like, "Where were you last night?" And I was like, yeah, so I had to kind of confess and
Had to explain
yeah,
yourself.
yeah. So yeah, I was halfway through. I don't know what you kind of call your is it higher education? You know, your not degree, the one below a degree level. So I didn't finish basically. I didn't finish secondary school basically. So yeah,
Okay.
I got chucked out, and yeah, that's the story. I bet it's better than Joey's story about college.
I think it was a good story.
I went to
he got kicked out for sneaking off with his girlfriend.
Oh, that's weird. I went to this school of full of children that they all had special abilities. Mine was that my flesh and wounds would heal quickly, and like things would come out like almost knives would come out of my knuckles.
Right.
And my professor, who was in a wheelchair, God bless his heart. That's what guys are like. We'll just make shit up to top the other one. No, I was taking criminal justice because I thought that I could eventually translate that to working with troubled youth.
Yeah.
And that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to have an impact on a kid that might have been just like me, and maybe guide him in the right direction. And once speaking to the professors, and they're like, Joey, you're here for the wrong reasons. This is courses, and you're being trained to be a police officer, correctional officer, etc. Right. I was like, well, maybe I can still apply it. So I tried. I did. We had a week of in-person training, and that was the deal breaker for me. The way those ex-police officers and ex-correctional officers,
authority people,
the way they were talking, I was like, this takes a certain type of human being to do this job, and I'm not like that. I can't judge the way you were. I can't assume the way you were. I'm here to help those people that you want to put in handcuffs, and that you're keep talking down about. And this is just not for me. But the biggest takeaway from all of that was the psychology courses. I was fascinated.
And the sociology, I think.
Oh, the sociology. Yeah, sociology. Psychology was interesting, but the sociology was fascinating. And it kind of opened my eyes and made me realize that not everybody interprets everything the same way.
No, for sure.
We could look at the same situation and be involved in the same situation, but it might affect you differently based off of your life experiences and how you were raised and everything that led up to that. I just found it fascinating, and I realized that, okay, this course might not be for me, and but I can't stop. I'm gonna go back in September to something else. And it's just college, so I mean, I'm going to get approved, even though I have a GED.
Yeah.
But I think that in the meantime, you've seen my charitable work, and I don't make videos about it or anything like that, or my donations and stuff like that. But I can do positive things in the meantime.
Yep.
And I can truly have an impact. And I feel like I think that you would be very strong in that field as well, George. Given your history and your fascinating story and your life story, I think that you could truly help people with depression, because I can assure you, I don't even know what's in his DMs. It's probably mostly women, but there's the odd person that has mental health. George, no. But I can assure you that he has, like, the reason I made that video on how the aquarium hobby saved my life, I was scared to make that video. I made it for a number of reasons. I knew the internet was going to find out who I really was at some point, and they were going to figure out my background. So why not expose myself before anybody else could? The other thing was I got hounded and inundated with so many messages every day with people saying how much I saved them, and they have a troubled life, and they assumed I came from a silver spoon, and they assumed like I had a great upbringing, because you must. I mean, like, when
you see somebody and you only know certain things about them, you have no clue
what
they came up with.
I just wanted people to know that, like, look, we have so much more in common. But what that did to me, and I didn't realize it until years later, was you can be jealous or envious of somebody's success, but if you find out they had a worse start than you and they became more successful, whatever, it just makes that hate 10 times as worse, and they get way madder.
Oh, really? Is that right?
Yeah, so when you think about somebody and you're like, oh well, they must have had more opportunities for you, or they were privileged, or they came from a silver spoon, and I didn't have any of that. But once you find out they also didn't have any of that, yet they started off even worse than you.
Yeah.
Now you just dislike them, and now you're mad
they
and
feel
envious and
upset
jealous
that they weren't able to
and
accomplish
hateful.
those
Yeah.
things. Too.
Now I'm not saying that's for everybody, but I've definitely these sociology courses stuff helped me understand things a little bit better.
It's a true eye opener.
It made me less upset when people don't like me.
Yeah.
Like now I understand. I get it now. But
Yeah.
so it's all fascinating stuff.
It is. I heard a good analogy the other day about just accepting things. So be like a boulder in a river, and just let the water kind of roll over you, and eventually you just kind of erode, and it just runs really smoothly over you over time.
Yeah, but then also it potentially shapes you.
Yeah.
What was that thing you said to me the other day? You brought something up about why would you worry about...
Don't take advice from somebody who you would not want criticism from.
No.
Backwards.
Yeah, say it again. Don't take criticism.
Don't take criticism from somebody you wouldn't ask advice for.
That's really wise, actually.
Backwards.
I like that.
Yeah. Maybe makes maybe more sense that way.
Yeah. Backwards.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's really very wise.
I should put this down.
Yeah.
So this is the podcast that people weren't expecting from George and I, but this is exactly the podcast that I wanted people to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I got ideas.
I think.
George. Well, yeah. I mean, it's easier to talk like that, and it loosens you up a bit,
When
especially with me because I'm a loose cannon. And Sean from Tech Tech was worried about the interviewer thing that we did because it never ended up being, and he never knows where it's going to go.
Right.
But Sean is so. I console in him so much. I didn't realize that I do that. Like I confide in him, and I talk to him because he's very. He reminds me of like a wise old wizard.
He's a great guy.
He's not that much older. Yeah.
Sean Peck, he's awesome.
Yeah, Sean Peck. You did one with him as well.
Yeah, I did.
And Rachel.
Yeah.
I think when you say like you want the podcast to be not interview style, it's because every time somebody has somebody on their channel, it kind of ends up being the same sort of 10 questions maybe, and they ask them, they might answer it a little bit differently every time, but this is a little bit more like just hearing what these people are like.
I had some
and
things.
talking
I had
to
some
each
things
other.
I wanted to talk with George about. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't really. I already. Well, George is a friend of mine, so I already know a lot of the answers. But one of the things I gotta circle back to is how did I hear of George? I don't know how George entered my view. Like, where did George enter the picture?
I emailed you.
You emailed me.
I emailed you. I think I don't even know if you're 100,000 or you weren't huge just then, but I was really touched by a video that you made, genuinely, and it was about your arowana that died, and you were genuinely upset, and I really connected with it, and I emailed you, and I just said.
So the gallery already existed? No. That was 4 years ago.
Very new.
Buddy?
Yeah, Buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Buddy.
Because you had the gallery then, but just like brand new.
And I was following
that
you.
That was
I was
I
following
got the
you.
massive.
Yeah. I'll see if I can find the email right now. So I was genuinely touched, and I don't think I'd ever been, touched like that by another creator. And obviously we share the same hobby, and I wasn't on YouTube per se. I was using YouTube as a library to store video files. I wasn't using it as an opportunity to market myself or anything like that. And then I just reached out to you, and you replied. I was actually quite surprised that you replied, and then I think we had a bit of an exchange, and then I think a couple of months later you emailed me and said, I'm interested in coming to the UK. What do you think? And I said, brilliant, I'll host you. Let's organise a great event, blah, blah, blah. And the rest is history.
Well,
but I just
my
want to say
idea-
something before I forget, mate. Sorry, I want to say something publicly because I don't think people know that
He's seen me in the shower.
that
This,
people.
this is where my OnlyFans blows up.
I don't publicly. I have publicly said a few times, but I think this is a great opportunity and a great platform. You massively inspired me, and I know you hear that all the time, but I was a capable guy. I was a high performer. I was writing and doing all good stuff, but you made me realise that actually I could really make a good go of it with YouTube. And you didn't necessarily tell me how to do it. You just told me why to do it. And that was that was a game changer.
It took 2 days with you. It took 6 months with Rachel.
Yeah.
But all I had to figure out was, because when I'm talking to somebody and I'm trying to explain the importance of their voice and why they need to start doing what I'm doing, it's really difficult to do that because a lot of people just don't believe in it. I don't have the talent. I don't want to do it. I can't talk. I don't know what I'll make videos about, etc., etc., etc. Then you have to find what rings a bell with them. Like, well, if you do it, this is the financial freedom you'll get. That usually never works. Or the influence you could have, or the freedom you might have with being more creative, or how much happier you might. And you have to run through all of these things. But I think I learned with Rachel so much that I was able to and I come from a background of sales, so I will figure out how to close the deal, and it doesn't take me long. But when it's coming to hey, let's make life-altering decisions, that takes a little bit more time. And YouTube is life-altering.
Yeah. Oh, you said to me, Joey, I don't know if you remember, we're at Aquadepot, with the UK.
Oh, that's the store. Yeah.
And you said to me, you could make it really big if you wanted to. You just have to be. Are you ready for it? And I was like, I'm ready for it, Joey. And that was it. And then I just hit the ground running. I think I got 20,000 extra subscribers overnight after that. After the collaboration, and that just gave me motivation to create good content. You have to. I know that you thank me, so I can shout somebody out, and they might only get a few hundred subscribers, or they might get a couple of thousand. And you mentioned you got 20,000. And that has nothing to do with me. I just brought awareness. They have to subscribe for a purpose. And that's what I try to explain to everybody that wants a shout out. They can't, nobody's going to subscribe just because I said it. Yeah. They'll be like, some people are like, okay, I'll go check it out. And if there's nothing there for them to like, they're not going to subscribe. Yeah. So you were 50% responsible for that.
Got to keep it going and stuff.
Yeah.
This is
why
but
you were definitely, sorry, Tamara. Carry on.
That's okay. No.
You were definitely a catalyst, I would suggest.
Well, seeing that crowd that showed up for us, that had to be the nail in the coffin. That had to be an eye opener. And it was for me as well. That's when I started taking myself seriously. It was just a few years ago. Oh shoot, I'm actually this is a real thing. Yeah. I've done some events in the U.S. and I've traveled everywhere, but the United States is my home base because that's where the majority of my fans are. And they're always so good to me.
For sure.
Yeah. As much negativity as some people think I get, never once in person, ever once has that happened. No. Ever once.
No
and
one
what
really
I do, and George has seen it,
that.
I say exactly where I'm going to be, when I'm going to be there. I don't show up with security or anything.
Yeah.
I don't need it.
Yeah.
And I don't do it because... this is such a silly analogy because it's Mike Tyson, but Mike Tyson heard that Floyd Mayweather said he's the greatest ever. Yeah. Mike Tyson said, how can you be the greatest ever, but you can't go anywhere by yourself? Yeah. Muhammad Ali was the greatest ever. Yeah. Even though he has a losing record here and there. He was the greatest ever. It's fascinating. That type of stuff motivates me and gets me riled up. Yeah. It makes me want to be better. I don't care about the views. I just care about the fact that I can say publicly to hundreds of thousands of people, this is where I'm going to be, this is when I'm going to be there, and I'm going to come alone. Yeah. And they still accept me and love me. Yeah. But it is what it is. George has been pretty has no drama that I've heard of. Has there been any conspiracies, drama, anything flaring up? What's your biggest
Uh, no, the only kind of little drama that I think might be worth mentioning is that there was a kind of a bit of a movement on Instagram called Quality Matters. Don't know if you got involved with this hashtag Quality Matters.
No, fuck off. That's what I got to say. Like,
Yeah.
stop with these
And,
hashtags and this dumb shit.
Yeah, and it got a bit out of hand, and some people are excluded from it, and they were accused. They thought they were being bullied, and then I got dragged into it because I thought it was quite a good cause because we're trying to sort of lift up smaller creators that are really talented that weren't getting any exposure, and then you got kind of talentless accounts that are just doing it for the views and the likes rather than actually
Yep.
creating any quality content, and they're getting
But if we
they're
talk
going,
like this, we're arrogant. If I call it out, I'm arrogant. If I call
Yeah.
it out and I expose them, I'm the bully because I'm the bigger channel.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
If I say something, I'm attacking them.
Yeah.
yeah.
If I say you shouldn't be doing this or you shouldn't be a copycat or you shouldn't be doing this for the views, I'm the bad guy.
But they can say whatever they want.
But what
to
they're
you.
doing is they are, and what you stood up for is those little creators that are actually talented.
Yeah.
And I'm mad at the ones that are clickbaiting and copying and drowning out those people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they've gained a lot of fans.
So yeah, that was a bit thingy. So now I don't publicly like align myself with a particular movement, but what I do is I approach individuals that are super talented. And I deliberately pick the smaller creators, less than 5,000 followers, because they've got great content and they're so passionate and they tell stories with their posts. They're not just posting a picture and then say it's a fit, this fish and then a few hashtags. They're actually telling a full-on story that's meaningful. It's got purpose to it. It's aligned with their kind of value set, and I really love that. And I'm, and then in fact tomorrow evening, we originally booked with you, Joey. I actually I forgot, but I pre-booked with a small creator to go live with him on Instagram tomorrow. And
Who is it?
his name's Ryan Knoll. He's called the Aquascaping Rhino, and he is super cool. He's same age as me. He's a graphic designer. And he's just a really, really nice, talented guy. He's only got 1,500 followers, but he's only been in the hobby a year. But he's doing aquascapes better than I can. So
the interesting aspect as to small creators and why they stay small is they don't know how to game the algorithm. Now I know certain accounts and certain people that know how to game the algorithm, and the feedback I get from them is if you want to grow, copy the big guys, which is an interesting concept to grow your channel, and I commend you for doing that. But if you expect to have any longevity, at some point you're going to expect it to be creative.
Well,
Good luck with that.
I think one of the first things you taught me, Joe, was content is king. So you can you can figure out the algorithm all you like, unless you've got good content, it's not going to.
I don't know the algorithm anymore. I'm not as obsessed with YouTube anymore. It's been years since I've been obsessed with YouTube. And if you want to grow and if you want to get big, you have to be obsessive. And I did YouTube for 13 years. I've only been doing it full time for like 7. So that means that for 6 of those years, I was working a full-time job, raising a family, and doing YouTube and growing it in an environment that it wasn't big. You see, it's easy, in my opinion, to grow an account now because you can see how big a channel can get or how successful someone can be. But when I started making videos, there's a couple of things. One, there was no money involved. You couldn't. The YouTube Partner Program did not exist. There was no ads. The other thing is, I became the #1 aquarium channel at 20,000 subscribers, and I was broke and making nothing from it. I didn't have anybody to look up to or to explain to my wife, be like, look, I'm sacrificing now, but look how big this guy is, and he's probably making all kinds of money, and
No
I didn't have that.
Yeah.
It was just me, and I had to try to convince everybody that I was, and I had to deal with the humiliation and the teasing and the making fun, and that's all you do, and it's costing us so much money and this and that, and but I love it, and I love what I'm doing, and this is the only thing that I do. I have no other vices. I don't do anything wrong. I go to work. I don't call in sick. I don't do anything. I just do my fish tanks and talk about them on video sometimes, and that's the biggest difference today, because if you want to start a YouTube channel, you can look at channels like George or like mine or whoever you think is a big channel and be like, wow, look how you have an ambition and something to look up to and something to potentially get to. And
I
you
want
have
to be like that.
that goal and that data marker where you like, okay, well, I might only have 100. Or the biggest thing that upsets me is when channels message me and they're like, you need to shout me out because I only have 3,000 subscribers, and if you shouted me out, I would do so much better. I'm like, I look at their videos. You making videos for 6 months? I made videos for what, 2-3 years before I had 25 subscribers.
Yeah.
And those 25 subscribers came in the same week after 3 years of almost daily videos.
Yeah,
What
and
are you
I think
talking
if you're
about?
brand new, I think sometimes you just need that experience of just making the videos and finding out what works and getting into sort of a rhythm and a regular posting schedule. And then people are going to be like, you know what? I really like this person. I do want to subscribe to them and see what they have to offer.
How long do you think you're going to be doing YouTube for, Joey?
Me?
Hmm.
I'll go full circle. I began making videos when nobody watched me. I'll continue to make them until nobody watched me.
Okay.
I need closure. I need to know that nobody wants to watch me anymore.
That's interesting.
And I know that like I'm not pulling in. So 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago, no matter what type of video I made, 250,000 views.
Yeah.
Every single video, unheard of. And it's not like I was making them every 2-3 weeks. I was making them almost daily.
Yeah.
Killing it.
Wow. Yeah.
I hit the trending page 20-30 times.
Yeah.
Top 10
Yep.
constantly. And that is the biggest thing I had to get over. Like those days are gone. I can't. I for the longest time I chased the trending page and I chased the time frame of trending, and that was a unique moment in time.
Yeah.
I can't compare to that. Now I say I'm back to normal, which is like right before trending, right back to like doing like 100,000 views a video, or 80, 120, 150, 200. You know, like basic.
What's your biggest video ever, Joey?
I've made over 40 or 50 videos that did over 1 million views.
Yeah.
I'm not a one-hit wonder.
I think your top was like 5.
I've never had anything go
something.
super viral, but I think I got a few that did 4 or 5 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a few that
never
got over
anticipated
a million. My best one was Floristas submersas, 2.5 million account so far. You know, the giant nature aquarium Takashi Amano did in Portugal. You need to go there, Joey. It's awesome. Yeah.
I don't. I would probably like to see it, but
Not
I
film
think.
it. Yeah.
See, my most viral videos in my top 40 are all of things I did.
Yeah.
And I filmed all of my own accomplishments. And I think that it's great that you filmed that, but I think you'll be even more proud of when you get a video that does 1 million views where it's your content.
My own work.
Because I get people that are constantly trying to compare to me.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I got more views on this than Joey did or that. I'm like, I'm filming me. You're filming somebody else's accomplishments, and it's not even you filming. You're having somebody else film it and edit it.
Yeah.
You're in it
that's
for 30
true.
seconds.
Yeah.
And you're filming somebody else's accomplishment.
Yeah.
And you want to compare to me.
Yeah.
Go film your
Yeah.
fish tank and see if it gets that many
Be
views.
a true creator.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. I was like, and maybe I could have evolved if I would have got over myself. Maybe I could have been more if I was like, okay, maybe I need to evolve to the point where I need an editor and I need somebody to film me constantly and I need to go film other people's stuff. But I'm too stubborn, and I'm like, no, if I'm going to make
Maybe
it, it's going to be
would've
on my own.
Evolved, or maybe you would have gone backwards and really hated that and not wanted to do it.
I also think that I won't hit my creative peak again until I hit rock bottom. Until nobody's watching, and then it doesn't matter what I film.
Yeah.
And then you'll see me come back up.
I think
Yes.
that's part of getting to 1 million subscribers too, is people love to watch that climb to 1 million.
Yeah, they love to watch you fall too.
Yeah.
I love. There's nothing more, and George touched base on this a little while ago, where he talked about growing some of the company's other channels, how it's so validating and it feels so good.
Yeah.
The climb is addicting.
Well, it's a basic measurement of success, isn't it? You know, validation, approval. What you're doing is people are enjoying it. You know, and as humans, we need to feel that we're adding value to something, I think.
So what are you up to now for subscribers?
I haven't checked for a while. I think 170 something.
170 something?
170 something thousand, yeah.
It's close to 200,000. So your next goal, of course, is, well, 175, 180, those micro goals.
To be honest, I honestly don't. It's weird, mate. My mindset shifted so much about numbers. It's all about, as long as I'm earning enough revenue, I don't even, my ad revenue goes into a separate account. I don't even look at it now. My core income comes from about 6 or 7 different streams.
There you go. That's what you should do as a creator. You should look at your channel as a wagon wheel. If you only had one spoke on your wagon wheel or your tire, and that wheel breaks or that spoke breaks, the entire wheel will collapse. Yeah. But if you have 7 or 8 of those spokes, if one collapses, it doesn't matter. You'll continue to generate revenue enough to keep you afloat until you fix things.
Yeah.
That's why I like the books.
That's what I try to explain.
For me, it's all about passive income. So, in 5 years' time, I want to be financially, have the financial freedom to do what I want when I want. Open that coffee shop, aquascaping coffee shop, with, or go traveling the world with Emma, or just have that freedom to do what I want to do. There'll always be an element of me doing some form of aquascaping or some sort of creation, because that's where I really find. That's where.
So long as you stay relevant, that book's gonna sell.
Yeah.
So long as you stay relevant, that book will sell. But you're with a big publisher from the sounds of things, so it doesn't matter if you're relevant. They're going to still sell it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've got 8,000 copies under it. 8,000 titles that they've done. Yeah, they're huge. Yeah. Skyhorse Publishing in New York City.
Have you sold a lot of copies? Do you know the running number, or
yeah?
How many yours
count
sold?
was about 11,000 copies or so. In 4 months. Yeah. It's done better
more than mine did.
I'm surprised. I didn't really have any clear expectation. What really surprised me was these. So we basically bought 1,000 copies ourselves directly from the printers, and then we sell them, signed copies, and they just went so quickly. And I'm just, I've had a lot of great feedback, and I've had a lot of great kind of validation and approval points throughout my career. But when you see someone spending a good amount of money on a book that you've written, and they want you to write a certain message, and then they write an additional thing just to say how much they appreciate your work and how you got them into aquascaping, how it's improved their life, how their children are now involved, and to know that you've had that positive impact on someone. And you get it in the YouTube comments, and you get it on Instagram. But to get someone that's actually parted hard cash, and it's not cheap to buy a signed copy from me either. They pay a premium for that, obviously. That's really where I get my, and it's not to do with the money. It's obviously helpful, but it's genuinely knowing that someone appreciates your work. And I've worked so hard to get where I am.
Well,
and that's really great to get that feedback.
That feedback and that feeling is fantastic, but at the same time, they're buying a utility from you and something that's actually going to be useful and that's going to benefit them.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
The feeling that you feel of being so appreciative almost comes from feeling guilty, because I come up with nothing. I had nothing, and I couldn't buy a book when I was younger. Until recently, type of thing. And I know how important it is to spend money on something that is not, well, these are luxury items. Yep. The aquarium hobby is a luxury hobby.
Absolutely.
You don't need this. So when somebody buys something that's even more luxurious within the hobby, that they could potentially Google or look up or watch your videos, etc., but they invest that type of money into you.
Yeah.
It's you do have a slight sense of feeling guilty, and it's a humbling feeling at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's an interesting thing, and I don't think a lot of authors that will feel like this, especially because it's a cliche for a YouTuber to write a book. You know, most of the vlog channels, etc., years ago wrote books. I was like, you could never write a book like I wrote a book.
Yeah.
Like, the person that wrote that book was a genius. I could never do that again. I don't know who did that, but I reread it and I know it was me, and I know how quickly and I was just knowledge dumping.
Yeah.
And it was so it was an experience.
Mm-hmm.
But George, your book will sell for years to come, so long as it stays relevant, so long as that publisher keeps pushing it, etc.
Yeah.
It'll do well. It's a beautiful book. Well
Thanks,
done,
mate. No, I appreciate it.
Where can everybody get it?
Just Google George Farmer book. Yeah.
That's one way.
He's so professional. Just Google George Farmer book.
Isn't that where everyone does everything on Google, isn't it? No, I've got a website, georgefarmerstudios.com. Yeah, just find me on there. I didn't want to use this as an opportunity to advertise, but I appreciate the opportunity, Joey. Thank you.
Yeah, it was bound to happen. I was going to bring it up. I think we brought it up at the beginning and probably talked about it. But it's important to talk about these types of things. I mean, you wrote the book. Mm-hmm. You sacrificed. You put that effort in. It was your knowledge, etc. But George, I think we should do this again. I think we have so much more to touch base on. I think we only broke the ice here. Yeah. And I think that we can capitalize on our friendship and make some really interesting armchair discussions for people to sit in their chair and listen to us. I do need to get that chair to get because I feel like that's when I'm watching a podcast. I'm sitting in between them on this little armchair
with your drink,
with my drink with them, going back and forth. But I can't talk. Yeah, I love it.
It's great. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it, and congratulations on the podcast as well. I listened to Rachel's episode all the way through, and it was really great. And
we'll see how it goes.
I hope this one's been okay. Bit of a different side to most people have seen. Feel good.
Well, that's the point of this, as I don't have a topic. I don't want a topic. This isn't an interview.
No.
Although, like, if I'm not friends, it's probably going to come across as an interview if I don't know you that well. But for the most part, it'll go like this. And all the guests lined up after you are basically all my friends that also have fish tanks. So I think it'll be incredibly similar. So if you're not subscribed to this channel yet, I highly suggest you do, because you're going to miss these types of things. And Lord knows what I'm going to say. Lord knows what I'm going to get my guest to say. And I don't know if we'll have a guest every time. I think every once in a while we'll just do us, and then we'll have a guest. But George, thanks for joining us. If you want to shout out your links, go ahead right now.
Just Google George Farmer.
Jesus Christ. George is on Instagram as well as YouTube. I'm not sure if he messes with Facebook or not, or other platforms. You can also find him on Grindr under George Farmer. George, thank you for joining us. I'll see
OnlyFans.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us, my
you.
fellow tank mates. I hope you enjoyed this Aquariums Unfiltered conversation. I'll see you guys in the next one.
Cheerio.
What'd you think of that, George?